Bloomberg Audio Studios. Podcasts, radio, news.
The Stock Movers Podcast, your roundup of companies making moves in the stock market, harnessing the power of Bloomberg data.
Let's take a look at some stocks on the move this day. With us is managing editor for Bloomberg Markets Live blog, Christine Aquino, back here in studio. Where do you want to start?
Let's talk about Supermicro. I mean, biggest beneficiary of those seemingly more cordial, shall we say, headlines between U.S. and China overnight. We've had a lot of conversations about the back and forth. It's hard to say, but we shall see, right? Yeah, exactly. And you know, to your point, Carol, that's probably why we are seeing some of that pullback in the optimism in equity markets generally. And you can also see that in Supermicro, right? It's up less than 10% now, just 9 and a bit percent. It was up as much as 14% earlier because we did get, throughout the day today, Treasury Secretary Bessent commenting on the potential trade deal taking longer, perhaps, than investors are expecting. And also the fact that supposedly President Trump has not made any unilateral concessions to China about lower tariffs. So a lot of uncertainty still.
We spoke to Brendan Murray, our trade czar, and he put it in he had a really interesting view. I'm just going to repeat what he said because it really stuck with me, Carol.
Yeah.
The president's negotiating with himself at this point.
Yeah.
Because it doesn't seem like there's a back and forth with the U.S. and China.
There's no real negotiating going on at this point, right? There's no people at the table necessarily having that conversation, right? President Xi has been very clear. Let us know kind of when things are more respectful and calm down. And we have some steps to take to get there. The other thing is, if it's going to be a comprehensive trade deal, as we keep hearing from the Secretary of the Treasury, Bessent, that this is a couple years in the making. So folks, sit down,
strap in,
get a good drink, and get ready.
Phase 1, phase 2, sort of like what we saw in the
phase
first Trump
10, phase
administration.
20.
Who knows?
Yeah. Let's get to Enphase. What's going on with that one?
Yeah, well, Enphase on the other end of the spectrum in terms of kind of the impact of U.S.-China trade tensions. So we did get results from them yesterday. It's a solar and storage provider, and shares fell to the lowest in almost 5 years because it said that it sees about a 6% to 8% hit from those tariffs should they be imposed permanently, specifically on battery imports from China. So this is interesting because it's one of the first disclosures that we've gotten on the tariffs impact from solar or battery companies. So, if that is a harbinger of things to come, if the situation between U.S. and China doesn't improve, then we could potentially be seeing a lot more of these.
What's fascinating is yesterday we saw the solar names actually pop higher and rally on tariffs being imposed on imports. And so that was considered good for the domestic solar industry, but certainly a different trade today.
Yeah, definitely a different trade. I guess it really just depends on where you are, right, in terms of the supply chain and your exposure to that. But it also, I think, more broadly shows just how much of a chokehold all these trade and tariff headlines have on risk sentiment and stock markets at the moment.
Absolutely. Tesla.
All right. The one that we have been
talking about
a lot, but also because we got a little more color on the call yesterday from none other than Elon Musk. Tesla popping into
Wait, Elon called you?
He didn't call me.
Wait.
He was on the earnings call.
I thought you tell me everything.
After he said,
at least at work.
I might not be on all earnings calls, but he's been on all earnings calls since he said that.
Just checking. Okay, go ahead.
Shares popping today.
Yeah, shares popping. We got to talk about this, right? Because it is a bit of a head scratcher. I mean, that earnings result was just unequivocally negative. It's the worst quarter in years. Company missed its top and bottom line estimates. It trimmed its spending plans, but we're still seeing shares up about 8% at the moment because Elon Musk pledged to retreat, quote, significantly from his U.S. government work to concentrate on the company because his work with Doge is supposedly, quote, mostly done.
Well, we knew because of his status as a special government employee, his work would come to an end at some point. And we know the number of days. So as Ed pointed out, this shouldn't be a surprise to a lot of people. One thing that
It had to happen.
It had to happen. We knew that was coming.
Unless he all of a sudden becomes a government employee.
Yeah, I don't see that happening.
Not
Can you
happening.
imagine disclosures and the
little badge.
Yeah.
I'm here.
But one thing that I thought was interesting about this is we knew, this shares of Tesla starting around right ahead of the election when it looked like Trump was going to win, they started to move higher, and they've given up most of those gains since then. But that was when people knew he was going to be a government employee or working with the government and working at Doge. So they were rewarding that. And then they're rewarding him moving away too, which I think is just an interesting change in the narrative.
Yeah, it is very interesting. I suppose now that we've gotten a little bit more of an input into what does that mean exactly? Elon Musk having a government position, and investors have come to see, okay, that probably means his attention is going to be divided between his government work and Tesla. That's probably not good for the company.
The Stock Movers Podcast from Bloomberg Radio. Check back with us throughout the day for the latest roundup of companies making news on Wall Street. And for the latest market-moving headlines, listen to Bloomberg Radio live. Catch us on YouTube, Bloomberg.com, and on Apple CarPlay and Android Auto with the Bloomberg Business app.